Alara wasn't like the other children. While they played tag and traded stories of make-believe, Alara wandered the whispering woods that bordered her home. She could hear the trees, not just the rustling of leaves or the creaking of branches, but their voices, ancient, wise, and deeply connected to the earth. Her closest friend was an old oak named Alden, whose gnarled branches stretched toward the sky like a wizened hand. He had been there for centuries, a silent witness to the seasons, the town's joys and its sorrows. "The world is growing louder, little one," Alden's voice, a low rumble of rustling leaves, would often say. "Be careful of those who hear without listening." Alara heeded his warnings. She kept her unique gift a secret. Not even her kind-hearted parents knew. Her ability was a simple, yet profound one. With a single, whispered word of encouragement, she could make a sapling shoot toward the sun, a withered branch bloom with new life, or a dying tree stand tall again. The word was rise. It was her secret, her special language with the world. But danger always comes to those who are special and do not seek attention. One day, the peaceful rhythm of the woods was broken. A stranger arrived in Havenwood, a man named Silas Thorne. He was a forester by trade, but his eyes held a cold, calculating glint that made the birds fall silent. Silas was obsessed with the ancient legends of tree whisperers, people who could command nature itself. He wasn't interested in the life of the forest, only its power. He saw the majestic trees of Havenwood, not as living beings, but as a resource to be controlled. He noticed something strange. The trees near Alara's home were taller, more vibrant than any others in the region. He watched her from the shadows, hidden behind a thicket of brush, as she placed a hand on a frail sapling and whispered her word. Before his very eyes, the sapling grew, stretching its tender branches toward the light. A look of avarice, a hunger for power spread across his face. He had found what he was looking for. That night, a feeling of dread settled over Alara. Alden's voice in her mind was a frantic, desperate whisper. "He knows, little one. He saw. You must run." Alara didn't understand. She had done nothing wrong. But the next morning, Silas Thorne was at her door. His smile was smooth and unsettling. "I heard you have a special gift, little girl," he said, his voice like honey mixed with grit. "A gift that could change the world. Think of the forests we could grow, the fortunes we could make, the power we could wield." Her parents, standing protectively behind her, were confused. "She's just a girl," her father said. But Silas's eyes were fixed on Alara. "Don't lie to me," he snarled, his mask of charm slipping. "I saw what you did." He held out a gnarled, dark brown seed. "Make this grow now, or I will make sure this forest you love so much becomes nothing more than firewood." Alara's heart pounded. She looked at the seed, not a sign of life in it, and then at her parents, their faces etched with fear. She knew this was no longer a game. This was a battle for the soul of the forest and her own freedom. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat echoing the silent scream of the forest. Silas's cold eyes were fixed on her, a predator's gaze. The dark seed felt heavy in her palm, a tiny, inert promise of evil. The word she held, her secret, her gift. Could it be used for such darkness? Could her power, meant to bring life, be twisted to serve a greedy man's will? Suddenly a voice, a low and urgent whisper of rustling leaves filled her mind. "Rise, little one, not for him, but for us." It was Alden, the ancient oak, his voice filled with a desperate plea. Alara looked at the dark seed, then at the man. She saw the twisted greed in his face and the fear in her parents' eyes. She made her decision. This was not about her gift. It was about her choice. With a deep breath, Alara let the dark seed fall from her hand. Its dull thud on the floor a defiant act. She stepped past Silas and walked out into the yard. Her parents, confused and terrified, watched as she stood beneath the towering branches of Alden. Silas, his face contorted with rage, followed her out. "You fool," he roared. "You think you can defy me?" Alara didn't answer. She simply placed her hands on Alden's ancient, moss-covered trunk. She didn't whisper her word to the tree. Instead, she whispered it to the very air, to the soil, to the roots that stretched for miles beneath their feet. "Rise!" The ground trembled. It wasn't an earthquake. It was the slow, deliberate awakening of 1,000 sleeping giants. The forest around them, the beautiful ancient wood that Silas had planned to exploit, began to move. Vines, thick as pythons, snaked out from the undergrowth, wrapping around Silas's legs, holding him in place. The branches of the trees, Alden's leading the charge, began to bend and twist, not breaking, but forming a massive living cage around the forester. The leaves, once a gentle whisper, became a deafening roar as they whipped and swirled around Silas, blinding him. The roots, breaking the surface of the earth, began to snake toward the town, forming a defensive barrier, a silent promise of protection for Havenwood. The forest wasn't just growing, it was fighting. It was responding to Alara's word, not as a command to grow, but as a call to arms. Silas, trapped and terrified, screamed in protest, but his voice was swallowed by the rustling fury of the trees. He had come to Havenwood to control the forest, but he had forgotten one crucial truth. The forest was not a resource. It was alive. When the commotion subsided, Silas was gone, swallowed by the living prison of the woods. The townspeople, drawn by the strange sounds, gathered at the edge of the forest, their faces a mix of awe and terror. They saw the new growth, the vibrant, protective wall of trees, and they looked at Alara, standing calmly beside the old oak, bathed in the soft green light. Alara's parents, their fear replaced with profound pride, rushed to her side. They didn't understand the power she wielded, but they understood the love and courage she had shown. From that day forward, Havenwood became a sanctuary. The people learned to respect the woods, not out of fear, but out of a shared understanding of its life and spirit. Alara's secret was no longer a burden, but a gift she shared with her community. She didn't seek attention, but she had earned the respect and gratitude of an entire town. She was their guardian, the girl who could speak to trees, and in doing so had saved them all.